here in America especially, we hear a lot about the self-made man or woman. We hear about how they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and made their dreams come true, and they did it all on their own. It's a myth, of course. Not one of us does anything in this world by ourselves. It was Senator Elizabeth Warren who put all of this into perspective when she said, "There is nobody in this country who got rich on their own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on roads the rest of us paid for. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. You didn't have to worry about marauding bands that would come and seize everything in your factory. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless, keep a hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward to the next kid who comes along." Yeah. Oh yeah. This jubilance is how blessing works in the world. Every blessing you can count this morning came from somewhere, and we attribute that to God, but they were delivered by the people around us. Our blessings become a barrier when we think we created all of these miracles by ourselves. And this is the root of the ego's go it alone kind of arrogance. So today we're going to look at blessings a little bit differently so we can see them for the barrier that they are and realize that real, true blessings indeed are a gift from God, but they are always delivered to us by the people around us. And that means if we can become co-collaborators with those we encounter daily in this world, knowing we can bless and be blessed through our holy siblings, then we'll be creating so many miracles in every minute that the whole world won't know what to say, but oh yeah. I realized this morning just how deeply blessed I am in my life. And this epiphany came while I was sitting on the toilet. Now, I know that's probably not an image you want dancing around in your head, but...
It's a nice bathroom.
Huh? It's a nice bathroom, yeah. But as the famous children's book published back in 1977 assures us, everybody poops. It's a fact of life. Everyone spends much of their days in the loo, as the British call it. In fact, a survey a few years ago found that women spend 1 year, 7 months, and 15 days on average of their lives in the John. A month longer than your average man. Or your average butch lesbian. Like me, 10 minutes, I'm done. A British survey conducted a few years ago found that citizens there spent an average of 3 hours and 9 minutes a week in the loo, double the amount of time your average Brit spends exercising. And I'm not sure if you realize it, but there is such a thing on November 19th. It is World Toilet Day. And while we here in America might snicker about such a thing, finding a private toilet, I did not know this, finding a private toilet is a struggle for 4.5 billion, with a B, billion people around the world. 1 in 3 people on this planet have no access to safe, sanitary toilets. Wow. And 1.1 billion women and girls can't feel safe enough going to the toilet for fear of being attacked, but while relieving themselves in a public place such as the bushes. So maybe now you understand why I feel incredibly blessed having 2 private toilets in my house.
Oh yeah.
Compared to many other people in this world, I am among the most wealthiest and most privileged of all human beings simply because I have the ability to feel safe while doing my business in a private and sanitary place that is designed and designated for such things. Here in the lap of American luxury, for all of our problems and concerns, it can be difficult sometimes to just remember how blessed we really are. We get so caught up in our first world problems that it often doesn't dawn on us just how many other people are spending a lot of their time worrying about the really basic things where they might like safely being able to relieve themselves throughout the course of the day. In our Jesus story this morning, the writer of the Gospel of Mark begins his story about the good news of Jesus Christ by telling us about this guy named John the Baptizer who wandered around the Judean countryside baptizing the people who had been moved to confess their sins. Now, John, the passage makes clear, is one of the messengers of God that has been promised to us through the prophet Isaiah to send into the world to remind us not just who Jesus is, but to remind us who we are. In that moment, when I heard the story about how so many people search for a private place to do their business every single day, the voices on my radio were all about John the Baptist, a holy message to me to realize how the blessings I take for granted can be a barrier to love. The ego keeps me so busy seeking my own comfort to realize that I am part of this collective system that oppresses others, that keeps billions of people from experiencing even a bit of the joy and blessings that I have in abundance. My mistake is that I believe that somehow those people's problems are not any concern of mine. Not my circus, not my monkeys, right? Because I believe, we're all separate, and how they live their lives, it doesn't have any effect on how I live mine. Of course, before that moment, I had no idea that this issue of potty parity even existed. But now that I do know, I need to do something with it. I have this responsibility to stop looking the other way and do what I can to help change an unjust system. An organization called WaterAid is specifically working to bring clean water and private toilets to those who need them. So I did what I could. I donated a little money. And I can't donate to every charity out there, neither can you, but we don't need to. What we must do, though, is heed the call of the messengers who are sent our way. I can hear them calling from the wilderness that envelops many of my holy siblings, and remember that I am them. Their concerns are mine. John the Baptist said that the one coming after him, a man named Jesus, who had dispensed with his ego to walk only in love while he inhabited an earthly body, he could change the iniquities of the world, John said. And John's message is still true today. But it's not just about Jesus. We jubilants are the ones who have come after both John and Jesus. And that means that we are meant to do even more powerful things than either of them did, because we're dedicated to learning how to overcome this egoic fear and also walk in the way of love, that way of love that can heal the world. And we can do that by realizing how even our blessings, the things we look out on the world and say, oh, that's a blessing, how that can block the healing love that we need to be giving to the world. One of the old hymns we sang over and over again in the Southern Baptist Church went like this. Julie, sing it with me. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Everybody, count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. It's still one of the hymns I will sing to myself now and then, because the advice is good, but often we never get below the surface enjoyment of that song's message. Oh yeah, we count our blessings. There's a roof over our head, 3 square meals a day, car that will get us to work, a place to go to work. But we never stop to think more deeply about any of these blessings and how they arrived in our lives. The hymn gives us a clue, of course, saying that these blessings come from God, but most often those God-giving blessings, they arrive, as I have said, through other human beings who, like John, are those God-embodying messengers who are sent to us. Think about it. I am thankful for my house, but a lot of people contributed to that blessing. There was a developer who bought the land, a company that graded the land, workers who installed water and gas and electric. Somebody laid the foundation. Another drew out the blueprints, and a whole crew descended on this land to construct this beautiful house. The house is built with materials that other people had to fashion out of metal and plastic and chemicals and trees. And who made the trees? Well, somebody planted a seed in the soil, and that soil had to be tilled and made ready by somebody else, and this God-infused universe caused sun to shine and on that sapling and rain to fall. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Everywhere we look, blessings and miracles. And they're all a communal activity. A Course in Miracles tells us salvation is a collaborative venture. We can't save the world, Jubilants, unless we do it together. God will come to you, A Course says, only as you give God to your siblings. Learn first of them, and you will be ready to hear God. That is because the function of love is one. This is why A Course in Miracles tells us that gratitude toward everyone around us, whether friend, foe, somebody you don't even know, it's the way to overcome our belief that we are separate from one another. And when we live our lives in gratitude for everyone we meet or know or hear about, then A Course says we can come to see everyone and everything as a blessing. Like that house being split in two. What a blessing it turns out to be. So when we can recognize the holy in, through, and around all the people and events, we will not only enjoy blessings, but we become the blessings. Love does not conquer all things, A Course says, but it does set all things right. And this is why we have to remember the communality, how blessings are communal. Nobody is blessed by themselves. Nobody is blessed just for themselves. Perhaps one of the best ways to count our blessings, then, is not by counting what comes to us, but the blessings that come through us. How we are always being used to be a blessing to others if we're willing to do that. Instead of seeing what God is doing for us, Jubilants. As the song instructs, see how God is blessing the world through us. It can be a powerful reminder of who we really are and clear out this barrier that blessings can sometimes create. We're not here to just enjoy the blessings we receive. We're here to be the blessing, to be the channels of gratitude that blesses each person and creature and tree and blade of grass so we can conquer any countervailing force in this world. Not so that we conquer the world, but that we set it right. Breathe deep. Just like John the Baptist making his grand entrance into the scene in Mark's gospel, the messengers in our own lives, they can appear out of the blue or perhaps in a parking lot. A few years ago, I met a guy, such a messenger. His name was Tremaine. I don't know his last name. Doesn't matter. But I was leaving old Chicago after eating dinner, and I walked to my car, and he approached, and he said, "I'm not asking for money," which is exactly what people who are asking for money say, right? I'm not asking for money. I'm not a drunk. I'm not on drugs. I just got out of the Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center, and they just dropped me off here. I'm hungry, and I'd really like to eat. And his story caught me. I told him that I would believe him. I believe what he says about the detention center. I have a friend who worked there or worked for the county and told horror stories about how they would just dump people by the side of the road. You're out, go, without a dime. So I went in and placed an order for him and invited him to sit down and tell me about his situation. So we sat outside the restaurant. And several years ago, I would have just blown this guy off and kept walking to my car. Yeah. But there I was, sitting on a bench with a stranger. And he told me he'd been caught driving with a suspended license, and because he couldn't pay the fine, he spent more than 2 months in jail. And when he got out, he'd lost his car, he lost his job, he lost his apartment. And as somebody who grew up in the housing project, I know so many poor people are just one bad event away from losing everything. And here he was, a living example of how precarious life really is for a lot of people. And like those people in far-off lands, here's a guy, didn't have a home, didn't have a safe place to go to the bathroom, right here in Columbia, South Carolina. And so I sat on the bench with Tremaine and I thought about the words from the Course. Your gratitude to your sibling is the only gift I want. And while Tremaine expressed his gratitude for my generosity, I was grateful for him. Because he sat there and reminded me who I truly am, his holy sibling, just sent there to be a blessing. He reminded me my purpose was not to judge him, but just to be grateful for him. And as Tremaine left with his dinner, he told me, in an echo of today's Hebrew reading, that I would be blessed for blessing him. As the proverb said, the one who blesses others is abundantly blessed. Those who help others are helped. Jubilants, if you want to know what it is to count your blessings and remove this idea of blessings as a barrier to love, then start with the blessings you have given to others. You may have received many, 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 many blessings. How often do you give back? And as I said, just a few years ago, I would have said, dude, no, and walked to my car. But I know in my soul that in that moment, my duty was to be fully present to this guy. Not just with my money or food, but giving him my attention. I was willing to take the time to see Tremaine, to hear his story, to give him a sympathetic ear in a world that had turned its back on him. And in the end, Tremaine was happy for the things I gave him, but he seemed even more delighted that I took the time to talk to him. This is where the blessing lies. As Proverbs tells us, it lies in being present for others. A life devoted to things is a dead life, a stump, we're told. But a God-shaped life is a flourishing tree. We water that tree with our gratitude and our willingness to bless just as much as we have been blessed. The one who is more powerful than I is coming after me, John the Baptist said. And those of us who have come after Jesus are, if we are to believe Jesus, we are more powerful than he ever was. And we can claim that power by understanding that our purpose in this life is just to be that channel for blessings, flowing in and flowing out, washing over the world with wonder and grace and returning back to us, filled to the brim with love and compassion. So yeah, jubilants, count your blessings. Name them one by one and go deeper to see just how interdependent we all are on one another to both give and receive blessing. As we come closer to one another, of course says, we come closer to God. But as we move away from each other, we move deeper into our fearful egos. We become separate from ourselves and from God. So I invite you, jubilants, remain vigilant. Watch out for the messengers of love that come and bless you, and the ones that have come to be blessed by you. And they may come in distressing disguises. They may come to you as the poor, the blind, the battered, the stranger, the wounded, but they invite you to open your heart to them because they come bearing a blessing for you and for the world. Count your many blessings, the old hymn tells us, and angels will attend. Those messengers of love that will bring peace to the world gather around us. The angels attend when we give and receive blessings. Jubilants, there is no separation because we are all those angels.